Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Sisterhood Society podcast. Today, we are leaving out Tara intentionally because we're talking about a topic she couldn't give a hoot about. We are doing a book chat. So we thought it would be fun to do kind of like what we're currently reading, recommendations, essentially just some general book chatter, which Tara doesn't seem to care for. And she would have nothing to contribute because obviously she doesn't read. So we told Tara for the Patreon and just the podcast in general that she has to create her own TV club because she doesn't.
Actually, and a lot of people had said they'd be really interested in that.
I know. So she just needs to get that going because she's convinced that will be more popular than our book club.
I don't know if it'll be more popular, but she definitely is convinced that it's going to be like a smash hit.
Yeah, it can be her own niche. We'll just say that. So before we hop in, I collected a handful of questions I thought we could chat about on this little catch up. But before that, why don't you start with what's good?
Okay. So my what's good is we were all able to go to church yesterday. Finally, for like the last 4 weeks, at least one of my kids was sick. So I had to stay home since Easter pretty much. And so it was really fun to be able to go to church with them. And it's been like crazy sunny here. So I've been working outside while Chi-Chi plays outside. And tomorrow, Indy graduates from kindergarten. So yeah, our parents are actually, as we speak, they're on our way here from Nashville. And they're going to stay here because they're bringing mazzaroons. We actually have grass in our backyard, unlike Tara, who has a pool. So the dog has a place to go potty, and it's going to be great. It'll be a great 2 days having them in town.
Yes, that will be very exciting. Our dad doesn't make it to town very often unless it's like a major event or a holiday. So it's fun for him to be there and see the kids. And it's like, I remember being in kindergarten and feeling like that was such a big deal. You know what I mean? Like graduating from kindergarten feels like such a monumental thing. But
that's funny because when I was in kindergarten, all we did is had like a letter parade. And then we had like our kindergarten graduation inside the kindergarten room, but we didn't like dress up in gowns and hats. So for me, I didn't know kindergarten graduation was a big thing until you went to Calvary. And I was like, wait, she got like a full on ceremony.
Yeah, it was. And did the kids sing songs?
Yeah, they have prepared some songs that they'll be singing. And Indy was supposed to have like a talking part, but he was too nervous. And every single time he would tell that they were practicing it, he was too nervous. He would tell his teacher that he doesn't know his part, even though he did. And so she ended up giving his speaking part to someone else. And he is now going to be the Bible.
Oh, okay. Does Briley have a speaking part?
I don't know. Probably. I feel like Briley does really well with stuff like that.
That's so sweet. Yeah, I remember Mom and Dad both came and then Grandma and like everybody was there. So I remember it being like a big thing. So me and Phil were going to come, but we've had a crazy turn of events. Long story short, I went to Atlanta on Thursday to help with my sister-in-law's baby shower. It was like her friend's shower in Atlanta. And there was like I think they said there was like 46 people coming. It was something crazy, like a big number of people. So her sisters and I are really, really close and actually friends of all of ours. So it's kind of funny how I'm like friends with her siblings and she's friends with mine. And so I went and stayed with her sister, Emmy. And the first night I got there, we had like a super fun night all hanging out. And then at 12:30, Phil started texting me that he wasn't feeling good. Had no idea what it was. And I was like, okay, well, you get to Nashville tomorrow morning. You can go to prompt care or the ER, whatever. And then his tour manager started calling me at 1 a.m. And I knew when I was getting that phone call that something was not good because why would Dustin be calling me at that early? So Phil ended up going to the ER that night with a kidney stone and he has yet to pass it. And we're on day 5. So the poor thing is in a lot of pain and it's it's been a whirlwind couple of days. So we actually had talked about coming back to Bloomington, either like trailing behind my parents or coming separately just to be there for the graduation. Because I told you guys I thought it would be really fun to be there. I don't even remember you guys, like I remember seeing pictures from Brecken and Ribs, but I don't remember that it was going on. So I would have gone to that one too. But anyways, all that being said, my book club was also tonight and I canceled that, which you can just tell how sad I am to be missing, because I hate missing my book club. It only happens once a week or once a month, sorry. But it was right for me to come home. So I literally drove at 4 a.m. yesterday. I got up at 4:30, got in my car and drove back to Nashville. So I could be home with Phil, and I'm glad that I did. So just one of those seasons of life that just seems like things keep happening, you know?
Oh my gosh, seriously. But also I didn't realize that it could take more than like a few days to pass a kidney stone.
I didn't either. And you know what's funny is when you Google it, it tells you it could take up to 4 to 6 weeks, which I'm like, there's no way someone could survive that. And the only way they go in and like blast them or like laser it is if they're like stuck in the kidney or preventing you from going to the bathroom. Like if you can't pee and they're stuck in the ureter, which are like the tubes that filter urine into your bladder. If they're stuck there, they'll go at like, you can have like a urologist or the ER can go and like use a laser and blast them to like break it up. But otherwise, they just send you home with pain meds and say, Godspeed, you know? So it's one of those things where you're like, oh my gosh.
That is wild.
They compare passing a kidney stone to giving birth. That's how bad the pain is.
Uh-huh.
So, anyways, Phil is unwell. He's doing okay right now. Right this second, I think he's folding laundry. But he's been laying horizontal for a few days now, trying to get past it. And it's really sad to watch a spouse be in pain. Like I know, like I feel like it's the same pain or the same sadness you would feel watching a child be sick. Like it's so sad and pitiful, but it's really hard watching your spouse like be in extreme pain. So
yeah, I think too, not knowing that like you can't do anything to make it better. Right. And so you're just sitting there like waiting it out with them. And you're like, this bites.
Yeah, there's like literally nothing you can do. It's like so sad. So anyway, so what is my good? I guess my good was the shower that we hosted ended up being so cute. I didn't take a single photo. Did you see Tessa's photos?
I saw like, Tess posted like a few, which were super cute, but I was like, Kate,
I know.
waiting for all the pictures because I know that like, I know Tess and Emily are like so creative. So I was like, I bet it is like the cutest shower ever.
Yeah. So it was old Italy themed. And so like the only thing that I really did is I was there for like moral support, financial support, and then like execution. Like I didn't plan any of it. I didn't like do the invitations. I just was like, I know these things are so expensive. Like, let me just split it and then I'll come help make food or go grocery shopping or whatever. So honestly, Emily was so organized with it. She put everything in a list of like what store needed to, like what things came from each store. And then we did a shared note. Well, like while she was pushing the cart and grabbing things, I was like, tapping the list, making sure we got things right. And we went to Aldi and got 12 bottles of wine.
You sent that photo and I was like, oh no.
And their mom, her name's Lori, but her grandma name or like her childhood nickname is Chicky, which is also her grandma name. So we call her Chicky. So Chicky went and grabbed a box, but it wasn't like reinforced in the bottom, but we thought it looked really sturdy. And so we load all the wine in, and the motion was literally like this to this, like, here's the shelf we were loading it on. Cart is right here. And in that like swift 5 seconds, it bottomed out and the wine it's like crashing out of it. And it's just like, it's like the quintessential crash, glass to floor sound that you would expect. And I wasn't over there. So both of them are wearing taupe because, the Benjamin girls love a neutral outfit. And so Chicky's shoes are completely ruined. She's wearing like taupe New Balances, like really cute little tennies. And like she's she's like, she's covered in red wine. Emmy is wearing these really cute, like flared taupe pants. There's red wine all over the bottom of them. If anyone has stain tips for red wine, let me know. But I was like 10 feet back. I was wearing shorts. So luckily, even if it got in my legs, it wouldn't have mattered. But I just was like, I like couldn't tell if they were like mad or needing to laugh, but you don't want to be like disrespectful to like the Aldi workers. So we were like, I just like didn't know what to do. And actually they were so nice. The Aldi manager was like, okay, go get everything that dropped and you're fine. Like we'll clean this up. So like they had one of those really, really big like machines that you push along the floor that like sweeps up stuff, like almost like a mop thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so like all they had to do was like sweep up the glass and then run that big machine and then it was cleaned. But it smelled terrible. It smelled like really sour and just like it was bad. But it was so funny. We like got in the car and we laughed so hard. And then the other funny story is, I don't know why this made me laugh so hard, but Chickie's on this like special diet through Mayo Clinic. And we went to Starbucks and she got nervous of so she can only have like, it's kind of like Whole30. That's like the best way to explain it. And so Emmy's like, can I have a venti Americano? I order a cold brew. And I'm like, what do you want, Chickie? She's like, can I get a large milk? We were like, what? And she's like, sorry, I didn't mean to say milk. I just get really nervous in these drive-thrus. She was actually just wanting an ice water and egg bites. And for some reason, she accidentally ordered a large milk and we were crying. So like, despite like all the hard work, we had a lot of like fun little moments because it was most of the weekend. It was just me, Emmy and their mom and Chickie. And we grocery shopped at 5 stores and then we prepped food for hours. Emmy actually did desserts two nights before when I went and helped Jeff and Libby pack just a little bit and get dinner with them and stuff. So yeah. And just for people who don't know, Jeff is Phil's youngest brother and he's married. I introduced one of my best friends to Jeff and they've been married for like 8 years. And this is all of Libby's sisters and mom that I was spending time with in Atlanta. And then her other sister, Tess's her little girl's first birthday was Saturday morning. So we were like shower prepping, birthday party, Jeff and Libby moving, and then the shower. Like it was like so much crammed in a weekend. And my feet were just crying. Like my feet were just so tired and sore. And then I wasn't sleeping because I was worried about Phil. So by the time I got home yesterday, I was like, it was such a fun weekend, but I was like toast, and you have like, you're running like basically on adrenaline.
Yeah.
And you sit down.
It'd be one thing too if Phil was fine. So, like that way you could actually sleep. It would be another thing though. Or it was another thing since he was just so sick and you didn't know, you weren't there and you weren't sure how he was doing and everything.
Right.
One thing though that was good, not good, but one thing that was like provision is his parents were in town for the show that he just played at. So he wasn't in the ER alone. And then they were able to, how did he end up getting back to the bus?
So, oh my gosh, it's such a weird story. So his parents went to the show in Fort Wayne and it's like their second to last weekend of the Kenny Chesney tour. And so they had 2 friends that live in Illinois. One was their neighbor, one that moved like to Southern Illinois that loved Kenny Chesney and really wanted to go to the show and obviously loved Kelsey. And so they got tickets to the Indiana show. And so Phil's parents, Kevin and Vicky, were staying like 10 minutes from the venue and the hospital was like 5 minutes from the venue. So when this happened and Phil was getting rushed to the ER, they ended up being in town and ran to the hospital. So they spent all night with him and then they drove back to Bloomington that day. And then they drove him to Evansville, Indiana for their show Saturday morning. So they went from Evansville down to Atlanta. So weirdly, it was the same amount of time to drive, which is strange. Yeah. It was still like 9 hours, but yeah, they because Evansville is south.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I forgot that they were going to Atlanta to be at Jeff and Libby's shower. So
Yeah. And
they
they're
dropped
happy to
him
be
off in Evansville, then came down to where you were at, and
Yes.
then he went back to Nashville. Okay.
Yeah. And it was cute because so Jeff and Libby obviously have a ton of friends because Jeff played for Passion Band for a couple of years. He was the music director. And so like all the Passion Band guys were there and a bunch of people in their church. I think, like I said, I think it was like 45 people. There was a lot of people there. And we were all on the screened in porch because that's where like the bar area was that Ryan was doing the drinks. And Jeff like got on a chair and yelled, and he's like, "Hey everybody, my parents just got here." And everyone's like, yelled, and Kevin just turned around and went like this. It was so funny. It was like his moment to shine. But it was really cute. You could tell they were happy to be out of the car, and they were like honestly not, you would think that their energy would have been drained, but they were like really excited to be there and see all the friends and stuff. So
yeah, I feel like Kevin and Vicky are the type though that like re-energized by being around people.
yeah,
Because
Kevin for sure. Vicky's more introverted, but she's definitely like really, really good around people all the time. Yeah, it's really cute.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, so they actually stayed for the move, and I was feeling really guilty. I just don't like to commit to something and then not do it, you know?
Yeah.
But they've been sending us pictures, and we just had our team call, and Libby gave us a little FaceTime tour of the new house, which was cute. They like did a bunch of renovations to their house, which was super fun, and it's going to be real. It's big. There's like a huge basement. I don't think she showed that on the video. But anyways, all that being said, it was a great weekend. Good to see family. Libby's family feels like my family because I've known her sisters since I was like 14 or 15. And so I feel like her nieces and nephews kind of feel like an extension of my own, which is really sweet. And I got to spend the whole weekend with Gus, which is Emily's youngest. And he was like following me around. He kept being like, "Mommy, how long is Kate gonna stay with us?" And she was like, "Just one more day." And then he would like look at me and be like, like so sweet. But yeah, it was nice to get a good quality time with everybody and filled my heart. It was nice to not be home alone for a weekend too, because I've been home alone most weekends this year. So it was good to like not just be sitting at home working.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Anyways, that was a long catch up. So today we're going to get into, I actually like prefer the like life catch up talk more than I do. Not that I don't enjoy our topics. I'm like, okay, you can tune out now because now we're going to get boring. But I always think like when I listen to other podcasters that like, you know, that I like am invested in, I like hearing about their life too. Like when they go on trips or like they went to a concert, I like see it on Instagram, and then I can't wait for the toast to like recap their night the next morning.
You know what? I really enjoy them talking about, or I just really enjoy people talking about their lives too. But when I'm sitting there talking about my own life, I'm like, no one cares about what
I know. I think that you think that people don't, but then like I'm like nosy enough. Like I'll see like they're at like the Taylor Swift concert, and then I'll be like, "Oh, I can't wait till she talks about how it was the next morning."
Well, and she's been like chatting about that Taylor Swift concert for a while. I don't even like listen to them daily, but I am praying for her that Taylor Swift doesn't do Peace.
I know.
I'm like
until like she actually, because she's going again at I feel like there's like a New York show and then maybe an LA show. She's doing a huge string, like a huge week of LA shows soon at the stadium out there. But did you see the Gillette Stadium one this past weekend? I think it was Saturday night. It was freaking pouring for 3.5 hours. And Taylor Swift had this like clip that was viral on TikTok. And she's like, you know, I never imagined, or like, I don't think any artist imagines what it feels like to just play in essentially a shower. Like, that's what this feels like. And she's like, I feel like I'm playing at a water park. Like, it was so ridiculous because all those stadiums, like the old ones, they don't have the like optional closed ceiling or whatever. And so it ended up breaking her piano because the next night they brought the piano out and keys were playing themselves. And she kept being like, "Do you guys hear that? Do you guys hear that? I'm not touching it." And it kept going like doo doo. Like it was like a ghost was in the piano. It was the weirdest thing ever. And so then she ended up having to play both songs. You know, she does one on a guitar and one on the piano. She had to do both of them on the guitar.
Mm. How annoying.
I know. It was so funny. I can't think of like one specific song that I would be like dying. Well, Death by a Thousand Cuts is one of my favorites, and she played that at one of the earliest shows. So she did do I think Teardrops on My Guitar recently, which I thought would have been fun to see, but
I mean, so I know a lot of Taylor Swift songs. Naturally, anybody would. I can't say that I like am such a deep fan that I like know like the lore
right.
album like front and back or like the most recent ones. Like I couldn't tell you, you know. But I will say Out of the Woods was one of my favorite songs.
She did that at the Nashville show. She did it
really?
as one of the acoustic songs. Yeah.
Yeah, that one was good.
I didn't know that song was about Harry Styles.
I think that's why I liked it.
Yeah, Styles about him, that one. And then I think Welcome to New York. I feel like a lot of those songs are about him.
Oh,
That,
see, I didn't even call it by the right name. See, that's kind of the Taylor Swift fan I am. I'm not.
Wait, Out of the Woods. Yes, you did.
You said Style.
Oh,
we never go out of style.
Sorry, that Style is a different song. We never go out of style. Remember that one?
No, that's the one I'm talking about. Oh, no. Yeah. Okay.
Out of the Woods is, are we out of the woods yet? Are we out of the woods yet?
Yes, that's right.
You guys want me to keep singing?
I do like Out of Style, and I like that album the best, I think, out of all.
Yeah, that's 1989. That's one of her, I think that's one of her bests.
That's my favorite era.
Yeah, I was gonna say Reputation was like fine. Honestly, I listened to Folklore and Evermore a lot during my pandemic. Like I ran, and honestly, I have listened to Midnight's. I guess I've listened to all of her records a lot. Like I am a really big Taylor Swift fan, I will say, but I'm not one of those girls that's like, okay, guys, she just uploaded TikTok and she's wearing a pink sweater, and behind her is a clock with like two hands, one's pink, one's blue. And that means that, you know, Simone Biles is going to hop out of the box. Like, it's just like literally these girls on TikTok that are like trying to find Easter eggs. I'm like, who are you? And how do you have time for this? Like, it is so wild. Like the fandom around Taylor Swift is wild to me. And I think it's really cool because she's clearly powerful. And
I was gonna say, and she keeps her people engaged and like looking for more and like wanting more. And I feel like she's just like a master marketer, but like in a very fascinating way, which I think is cool. I think if she were to like write books, like fiction, she could write a mystery novel like nobody's business.
Okay, speaking of books, did you hear the whole this is pretty funny. There's this whole conspiracy theory that she's coming out with a book in July. Have you heard about this? Did I talk about this on the podcast yet? No.
I don't know.
Probably because Tara wouldn't care about it. But so the night in Nashville where she released the statement, do you remember where she said she's coming out with Speak Now?
Oh, yeah.
Her, you know how she's coming out with all of her albums, like Taylor's version?
Yeah.
Okay. So that night she posted this thing, and then she posted the caption, one in part of the caption, it said, "Dear Reader," which people thought, and that's also a lyric from some song. In addition to that, there is a book on Amazon that's like this is so stupid. It's the #1 pre-ordered book, and it doesn't even have a cover on it. And people Taylor Swift's book, but they don't know that it's hers. And I'm like, whoever this is like reaping the benefits from Taylor Swift fans. Like, what if it's like Coho or something and she's tricked us all?
So crazy.
But the page numbers, it's 544 pages, which equals 13. Because, you know, she has her thing with 13.
Okay.
And then the date coordinates with like another really important date, like July 24th or something weird. You know, Taylor Swift has all these dates that mean something.
Well, and what a huge responsibility Taylor Swift has to have to make sure everything is strategic.
Dude, like, I know she has her life planned out for like years. Like they have it all like strategized and like in spreadsheets for the rest of the time. It's crazy. And I'm like, I'm wondering if like she sees what people are like thinking are Easter eggs and then she just acts upon them, or if she just has them all planned and she just keeps them the same. You know what I
I
mean?
mean, well, this book would have to be hers in advance in order to do that, because these
Right.
people have prepaid for her book, and might not even be her book.
Some people think it's a memoir, like that she's written a memoir up until this point, but
Oh, easily. Yeah.
that, I mean, I don't know. Interesting. I mean, it would be a very interesting book. I think she needs to like when she turns 65, she needs to do a Evelyn Hugo and just like spill the tea and just blast everybody. You know what I mean? Just like, here's what really freaking happened and here's the tea. But she won't, because her life is such a mystery. Like, I don't understand how she went from being the girl who sings Tim McGraw to like this multi-billionaire like superstar that's so mysterious and has 20,000 fans outside the stadium who didn't buy tickets. Like that is
Insane to me.
that is next level fandom that I clearly cannot fathom.
I don't understand how. First of all, this chair is the worst, and my back. I already feel like
I'm like, what's happening?
I had to like get a pillow to put under my butt. Second of all, I don't understand. Yeah, I feel like maybe Kanye did that to her, because she was like, America's sweetheart, and Kanye got up and pushed her off stage saying Beyonce deserved that award. And I feel like ever since then she's kind of like had like drama that she could like write about.
Yeah.
And people really liked the drama, and then they also like an America's sweetheart, but like then we all noticed that she was creating the drama.
Well, with Reputation, that happened after obviously the Kanye thing, but I always wonder, like, with everyone saying how smart she is and how ahead she has planned, like, was that already in the works?
Yeah,
Because
I
she like
believe it.
disappeared, and that was kind of around the time where she basically stopped posting on social media, because she
Mhm.
used to like post stories and like funny behind the scenes, and now there's like nothing. Like
Yeah,
everything
she used
that
to
you
post
do
about
get,
her cats, and now I never see her cats.
I know. I feel like now the only thing you get to see of Taylor Swift is what she wants you to see. And it's
Mhm.
like all part of the plan, you know?
Yeah, and the fact that we're even like chatting about her is
Right.
it's
Part of the plan.
insane to me.
It is a social, it's a true social experiment
It
that's
really
fun
is.
to watch on the outside. Like I said, I am a Taylor Swift fan. I would have bought tickets. Like it's not one of those things. I tried actually. It's not one of those things that like I'm not her fan. I just don't know the level of fandom that some of these people like live and breathe by.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen her in concert multiple times, which I feel
Yeah.
like that alone, and I listened to all the records. But I don't understand the connection to all the lyrics and like the Easter eggs. I don't get that. I'm not that type of Swiftie, but I would call myself a Swiftie though. I think if you would buy tickets to see her show, that connect like that's one. I don't know what would
Well,
categorize.
yeah, you'd have to be, because it's an investment. They're so expensive.
That's the thing too, is like, where are these people getting $2,000 to go to a Taylor Swift show? I'm just like, oh my gosh. It's like, I don't know. For me, it was that or Tom Hanks, and I chose Tom Hanks. So wait. Also, like, I don't know if we've talked about that since.
Did you and Tara talk about it last time?
No, because I think it was before I went, because we skipped last week's podcast.
Oh, yeah, that's right. By the way, sorry guys.
Oh, it's fine. I can't even remember. It was a really weird week last week, and Isaac had stuff going on. Brian got sick. Phil got sick. It's just been like a really weird week.
Yeah.
But anyways, let's dive into our topic of book chats. So the first thing I wanted to chat about is, what are you currently reading?
Okay. So I'm glad you asked me this question on this specific day, because I finally stopped my book fast, but I'm taking it slow. However, with that being said, I read When Death is Coming by Jen Woodrum, who is my friend. And we've actually talked, or have we talked about that before?
Yeah. So my next question is going to be, what's the last thing you read, which I thought is the last book we both read. So we could talk about her next.
Oh, okay. So what I'm currently reading. Okay.
Yeah. So talk about what you're currently reading.
Sorry. Okay. So what I'm currently reading is The Serpent and the Wings of Night. It sounds like the dumbest title ever.
Wait, I thought you already finished the first book.
I did. It's a series.
Okay.
I just finished the second book literally today. And it is by Carissa Broadbent. Yeah. So the first book was fantastic. There are some PG-13 rated R scenes, I will say. In the first book, it was only like one. The second book, there's quite a few, so you kind of have to dodge and skip. However, the storyline, but I like the first one better. The first one I gave 5 stars. The second one was kind of like they were wrapping things up. But it's kind of like The Hunger Games meets Twilight. And
wait, did you read the novella?
I'm reading that now.
Oh, okay. Because I think the novella is well, I don't know, but I think it's supposed to go between the first and second book.
I think so, because the characters of the novella are in the second book. But I don't think it really gave much away.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the first book was so good. The second book was just kind of wrapping up loose ends. But it was so good. I wasn't expecting such a fascinating it sounds so dumb because it's like about vampires and like different kingdoms, but it is a fantasy book. But it was just fun. Like there was a war, there was like a Hunger Games vibe. She's a human in a vampire world, and like she's, your typical like main character where she's kind of like a badass and fighting vampires, and ends up realizing she's actually the heir to a kingdom. And anyways, it's just like so interesting and written so well.
Yeah, so I actually only on page 65, I think is what I got to last night. I didn't get to read all weekend, obviously, because I was busy cooking. But it's really good so far. I actually had Audible credits, and I got the Audible because with a book that long, I like to kind of like bounce back and forth between the two. But yeah, that's the best. There's 2, and I'm going to talk about that later, but there's 2 fantasy books, or just books in general, that like you cannot get on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram without seeing. And there seems to be these like waves of popular books that like literally everyone's talking about and saying like, you have to read it. You have to read it. And it's this series and then Fourth Wing. Have you heard of Fourth Wing? Oh my gosh.
I haven't
talked about it.
I am not on TikTok, and I actually unfollowed a lot of like bookstagrammers, because when I was going through like my fast, I wanted to like I went and unfollowed anything that would like try to get my attention. So I get my info from you.
So Fourth Wing is by Rebecca Yarros, and I haven't seen a single person rate it less than 5 stars.
Really?
Everybody
check that out next.
Freaking raving about it. So I actually made the schedule for my friend book club with my girlfriends in Nashville. And if you host that month, you pick the book, is what we decided to do going forward. Because it used to just be me and one other girl picking the books. And then I was like, I think it'd be fun if we spread it out so we get more like genres and like preferences. And also like it makes it funnier when like half the people hate it and half the people love it. And you get into this like discussion. So I gave myself my birthday month, which is in June. And they were like, they're meeting tonight, and this month they did Matthew Perry's memoir.
Oh, okay.
And they're like, okay, Kate, what's our book for June? And I was like, okay. And there's one girl in our group who like, she's one of my friends, one of my longest friends in Nashville. And like, pretty much most months she hates every book, which makes it so funny because I'm always looking at her Goodreads and I'm like, okay, Brie gave it a 2-star. Like she hated it. Can't wait to hear what she thinks. And unless she picked the book, unless it's historical fiction, she'll pretty much like it, but pretty much every other time. And it's funny because she's like not afraid to be vocal about how much she hates it, which makes it funnier. And so I was like, okay, Brie, don't hate me, but I'm gonna pick fantasy just because everyone else thinks it's fun to like nerd out. And I got one of the other girls in our group to start listening to ACOTAR and she loved it. So I was like, okay, I think everybody else would be open to it. But it's about dragons. There's a lot of dragons. And actually, for some reason, everywhere is sold out of it. Like you cannot find this book unless you just want to get it on your Kindle. But there was a run of books where it had black edges and they were sprayed, and then within it had white dragon imprints. And I ordered one on Amazon and was supposed to get that specific one, and now it's saying it hasn't even shipped yet, and I was supposed to get it last Tuesday. So the chances of me getting that book are slim to none, but it's literally sold out everywhere.
This is Fourth Wing.
It's called The Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. Even the people that I follow on YouTube that are like the harshest critics have been raving about this book. And like there's one girl, I've told you about her before on YouTube, that I'm literally like, she gets comments all the time that are like, why do you read? You hate everything. Like every book, she's just like, this sucked. And to the point where like, it's kind of comical because she like doesn't like anything. Like, it's so funny because it does make you wonder, like, do you actually enjoy reading? Like you literally hate every book. And so, but even her and then this other girl who reads a ton of fantasy romance said it was like one of their best books. People are putting it in their best book of the year.
What? Okay. Then I am getting out my phone right now. I'm pulling up my Kindle and I know. You said The Fourth Wing.
The Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. And I went on her TikTok and she was like, she's like, obviously I've had successful books, but I've never seen anything like this. And it's going to be the start of a series.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I wish it was on Kindle Unlimited.
I know it's not, which is so annoying. But yeah, so Serpent in the Wings of, is it the Wings of Night or the Rings of Ruin? I feel like I say it wrong every time.
Serpent in the Wings of Night. And it sounds like the dumbest. That sounds like the dumbest title.
No, it has the prettiest cover.
So good.
And then the second book is Serpent in the Star-Crossed King or Star-Cursed King.
The second book, well, the novella, I think is Six Scorched Roses or something like that.
That's right. And then it's Ashes of the Star-Cursed King is the second book after the novella. Yeah, Six Scorched Roses is the novella in between the two. But if you just look up Carissa Broadbent, you'll see it. But like I said, even on Goodreads, again, like those girls that I told you are really harsh on books, both of them I just saw on Goodreads rated this 5 stars.
I'm telling you, the first book, I devoured it. It was an easy read. It was a quick read. And even though it was a long book, it moved along quickly.
Yeah.
The character development was great. The world building was also great. It was just, she like laid out the picture, and it's one of those books where you kind of forget you're reading and then you realize that you finished it. And you're like, oh my gosh, that was fantastic.
That's amazing. So you can really explain it better than I can, but essentially it's about this girl who is
abducted.
Her adopted by the
abducted. So yeah,
I thought he like found her and was like saving her because she was abandoned.
No. So okay. So this vampire king is one of the most vicious vampire kings there ever have been. And he reigns over their world. And he's the most powerful, and he's also the most just like absolutely vicious. He ends up invading this one territory, or he doesn't invade, someone else invades, and then they go and essentially kind of
they're like pillaging it, aren't they?
Yeah, kind of pillaging it. He like swoops down, and he sees some of his troops surrounding this little area, and it's this little girl who had bitten one of the soldiers, and she's a human girl, and she's just like fierce little human girl. He gets down, thinking that they were gonna like kill them, because humans in their mind are like trash, like they're or slaves. You use them for slaves or whatever. They're not useful in their world because they're not powerful. So he swoops down and he picks her up. She bites him, and he doesn't like remove his finger or like retract from her or whatever. She bites him and like draws blood, and so he calls her little serpent, which is why there's serpent in the wings of night. So he's the king over this like clan of vampires that are the nightborn or whatever. And he ends up like not abducting her, but like her family apparently has just died, and he comes and takes her and takes her home rather than killing her. So he raises her. And so she is raised in this like really vicious environment. He loves her in a way, it's just like kind of harsh love. Like he shows her how to defend herself, like trains her in like war and things like that. So she ends up joining this thing called the Kedgery, which is like the Hunger Games, and she has to win them or win all these trials, and it's a span of like 6 months. So there's like 4 trials in a span of 6 months or whatever it is. 4 trials in 4 months, 4 trials in 6 months, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. Anyway, she has to win them because if you win, you get like this gift from the goddess that they worship. And she wanted to do this thing where she can have this bond. She can bond to her father, meaning like he can give her some of his power, right. Because she's a human and she's powerless and everything. Anyways, it is fascinating.
Yeah, that sounds really good. That's about the part that I'm at because the Kajari, or however you pronounce that, just started.
Yeah.
She like woke up in the castle that the Kajari happens, and I actually think on further than she's like trying to find her way, and she's trying to figure out if she's in a dream or if she's actually in the Kajari.
Okay,
I'm on
yeah.
Page 68. I was right. Okay.
Yeah, so she's just finding her way in there. So it's very, very dangerous for a human because obviously vampires want to suck her blood, like drain her of her blood. They also can like have a high sense of smell and very like strong, and anyways, so she's just a human in this Kajari, but she's been trained by her father, and so it's just there's a lot that unfolds, and I'm not going to like spoil it for anybody. I know that some people don't, if you don't like fantasy, this probably is not your vibe, but it is like so good. I feel like I'm kind of one of those people where I used to, and it has like a romantic subplot too. So if you kind of are like, you like romance, this kind of is your thing too. But I'm kind of more the type where I moved into the genre because I feel like you have to be extremely creative and you have to be able to write well in order for it to work.
Right.
And the way that like fantasy writers write has to be done really well. And so I know that going into it, if they have created this whole world and all these characters, that you have to have some creative brain in order to be able to do it. And so I know that I'll probably end up enjoying it. So I feel like that's why I've kind of moved into the fantasy genre. The first one is great. The second one is good. Not as good as the first, but yeah, you might have to dodge and weave some spicy scenes in the second book. The first one only has like one, and even then it's not quite as graphic.
I was going to piggyback off what you said, and then we'll move to the next one. And the next question. So basically all you've learned so far is that I hosted a shower this weekend and you should read this book.
I know, we're like an hour in and they're like, okay.
Okay, we're gonna speed up.
Yeah.
But what I was gonna say is I feel like, just to wrap up the whole first section, that it's easier to find duds in other genres than fantasy, because like you said, there's so much more world building than there is on that genre, because like in a romance, I feel like you have to sift through a lot of duds until you find a really good one, I guess. Yeah, is what I'm gonna say.
That's true, because there's different like different plots or whatever. And sorry, Terry just texted me. So like with romance, you've got like oh my gosh,
tropes.
best friend. Yeah, different tropes. You've got like the best friend or blah, blah, blah. And they all kind of align and fall into one of those.
Yeah.
Fantasy, you have wherever the sun takes you, you know,
Mhm.
like you can do whatever you want. And I feel like that's what's really interesting about them.
Yeah, because within a romance, they have to like kind of make sense, and it has to be like somewhat realistic for it to be believable. So it has to be in the realm of possibility. Whereas like you said with fantasy, it's a made up story and it's a dream world that we don't live in. So it's easier for them to create more far-fetched storylines, which then can create more fun. Okay, so the last thing we both read technically was When Death Is Coming by our friend Jen Woodrum. And we'll do a quick shout out before we move to the next two. But essentially, this is a YA dystopian novel that was written by a friend of Whitney's that I actually knew her husband through church. So I had never actually met Jen in person other than just chatting with her on Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah.
But she wrote a dystopian novel and it came out on like May 2nd or something. It's like only a month old, not even.
Yeah, it's fairly new, I believe.
And it's only like 290 pages. And for being a first time novel, or even if it wasn't, it's really well written. And I feel like the pacing and the twists keep your attention from start to finish. So
100%. From like the first page in, you're like, oh crap, this is like, what is that? I want to know more. Like I honestly was so not like pleasantly surprised. I was like blown away. I was like, this is so good from like start to finish. Especially because like it's her first novel and she's like an indie writer. So I just assumed like that it wasn't not that it wasn't gonna be good, but like, you know, like when you kind of dip your toe in, you like learn a lot on your way. But like this, she wrote like she's like a seasoned author. And I was just like, dang, this is so good. And so then I've been telling everybody about it because I'm like, this is amazing. Please, like, go read it because you will love it and you will support someone that is literally the sweetest human alive.
Yeah. And honestly, like one of our passions as being a small business owner is sharing small business to other people. And that includes creators, you know, like Jen, which has been super cool. So a quick synopsis. I have a whole TikTok review about it as well, if you guys want to watch that. But essentially, there is a world in which they all are given a age, essentially like an age expiration on their life. So they are graded by a number, and that number essentially dictates the length of time that they will live. So if you were less than a 5, you essentially get assigned to like work camps because they don't think you're valuable enough to like educate or teach a skill, like a work skill. Because if you're going to die as a teenager, they're like, why would we invest in you? If you're a 5 to a 9, you're going to live from your mid-20s on, just depending on what number you are. So the 5s are a little bit better than the 4s and below, and they help like run and oversee the work camps. The 6, 7s, 8s, and 9s essentially live long, full lives and live like a normal life. And the 9s essentially like rule the world. So it has very similar vibes to Hunger Games in the sense that it has those like sanctions of communities that are graded based on what they can offer. And then it's similar to Divergent, where they all have different skills, or again, that they're numbered from like what community they come from. And it's dystopian like Divergent. So essentially our main character, Carrie, is a 4. So she knows she's going to die by the time she's like 16 or 17. And she is in a work camp and she's trying to make inroads with other people, like a 5, that can help her improve the conditions of people in her work camp, these other kids. And they're not treated well. Obviously, they don't have like proper fitting clothes. They don't get bathed. Like they have really poor working conditions. And she's also hopefully kind of trying to scheme a way to escape. That's kind of like her thought process, is like, how can I get out of here? So we won't say anything else that happens from that point, because there's basically a twist or like a big action plot in like page 30. Pretty much like the first. And it's funny because a lot of dystopian novels or like action or thrillers, you usually have to wait like a good 100 pages before something happens and you're just world building or politic building. And that can be really like exhausting. I feel like a lot of the time when you're reading.
Well, and so many people are like, yeah, like it's really hard to get into or whatever. Like those type of books, you're just like, just stick with it because it'll get better. And so like you just kind of assume that if it's going to be nice and thick, you just assume you're going to have to stick with it. Whereas this one, it's not as thick. It's like right under 300 pages, but it is like from the first page, there's so much that captures your attention because it's just so fascinating how she kind of builds the different worlds. And the story is just so good. I actually got to sit down with her yesterday and she told me a few things about her ideas of like the rest of the series. I will not share those with you because I feel like that is information I need to guard with my life. But oh my gosh, guys, it's going to get so good. She didn't tell me a ton. All I know is just kind of the premise. And I'm very, very jazzed about it. I cannot wait. But yeah, I feel like the whole premise and idea behind it is just like so well done and written so well.
And we have an interview planned for her for either the podcast or the Patreon that we will let you guys know about shortly. But just a really quick update or reiterating, it's When Death is Coming by Jen Woodrum. And you can get it on Kindle, Amazon, or she has signed copies on Etsy. So
yeah, I just got mine.
Yay!
She wanted to. We met up for coffee, and she handed it to me in person. I'm just like, oh my gosh!
That's really sweet.
I read it on my Kindle because I had pre-ordered it, and so I didn't have a physical copy. And I finally have my physical copy, and I'm so excited.
That's really cool. Actually, something really sweet happened through that. So I posted a TikTok review. It has over 10,000 views officially, which is really exciting. And I keep getting comments of people saying they bought it because I did, I have this series I do on TikTok called convincing you to read ... And I explain part of the plot and say, let me know in the comments if I convinced you. And so I said, she's an indie author. I know how TikTok or Book Talk loves to support indie authors. I was I would love to blow her up and all of us to go grab her and grab her book and support her. So anyways, she reposted about that you and I had been sharing her book, and all of her friends and connections on TikTok and Instagram are a lot of other indie authors. And so a bunch of them came and commented on my video, which was really sweet. Aww. And one of them messaged me because we got on the topic of IVF because she saw I posted another infertility video, and we ended up voice texting on Instagram for an hour about the diet that I had gone on for egg retrieval and stuff. And she has a book that sounds so wild and interesting. I'll have to send it to you and see what you think. It's also kind of dystopian or I'm trying to think of the word, it's not fantasy, but it's like a magical world that she created. And she's also a therapist. So she created this world that you can go somewhere else in your mind. Mm-hmm. And you're in this like room where it's like a simulation. Anyways, she sent me the link, so I'm going to buy it.
I'm convinced that the therapists are the ones that write the best books because they understand human emotions.
Yes.
So well, and they know how to talk about them and like how to kind of finalize a journey in someone's like life and their emotion and like the highs and lows and things that they're going through. So I am convinced that therapists are the ones that write the best books.
You know what's funny that you say that? Lucinda Berry, who's a really popular, like unhinged thriller writer, used to be a therapist. And so is so Jamie, my friend Jael Hyde, who wrote Delta County and some of my favorite books, who I've become really good friends with. She connected me, and I've become friends with this other author who's a debut author, and her book comes out in February. Her name's Saget Schwartz, I believe is the last name. She's so sweet. She's sending me a copy of her book, and I told her I would order it because I want to like support her too. I don't want her to just like send me a copy, but she's also a therapist and she wrote a thriller. So it's kind of interesting how it is like a weird connection of people wanting to like share their stories. And like you said, they understand like communication and human connection.
Yeah.
So they do write really incredible books.
Yeah. I agree.
Anyways. Okay, next question. What is your best recommendation for someone who's coming to you asking for a beach read this summer?
Oh, beach read. So I personally, so I feel like beach reads for me are me wanting to just kind of escape and have something happy.
Yeah.
And so my happy books are all written by Emily Henry, because she writes romances really well, but they're also really funny and they're also really deep. They're not just like silly, like thrown together, super cheesy, kind of lame. So my recommendation, one of my all-time favorite rom-coms is The People We Meet on Vacation. She has another one called Beach Read, which is also very good, but The People We Meet on Vacation is definitely my fave. She has another one that is called The Happy Place. That one is good. It's not my favorite of hers. However, that one is becoming a movie. So she's just kind of like lighting up the world with her cute little romances.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, Emily Henry is obviously always going to be like at the top of the list as far as like easy, digestible reading when you're on the beach. I'm going to recommend something I've never read because which makes no sense. But I have like 5 Aline Hildebrand books that are like the epitome of like summer reading. And she's like one of those authors you can always find at like Target, Costco.
It's like Nicholas Sparks. Nicholas Sparks.
But I think that her books are like actually better than that. Like they're not like cheesy whatnot. I think they're deeper as well. But I have Hotel Nantucket and The Golden Girl, which are supposed to be some of her best. And then she has a new one coming out like in 2 weeks. And her covers literally are always like of ocean, like a girl sitting by the beach or like in a beach chair with girlfriends with wine. And they just like seem happy. So that's my goal this summer is to read some of hers. Winter in Paradise, I've heard is like one of her best, that and Golden Girl. I think that she's like the beach read of Kristen Hanna. You know, Kristen Hanna writes really deep like dramas. She's written like The Night Road.
And
Nightingale. The Nightingale. She wrote that one about the Dust Bowl that Libby just read, The Wind something. Anyways, I've actually never read any Kristen Hanna. Don't come for me because people are always like, they're like so fat. They're like literally this thick, and we can't see my hand. They're like this thick. And okay, this is going to be a and/or, because I know you don't read a lot of thrillers. If someone wants to go on a beach vacation and bring a thriller, what would you tell them to bring? Or mystery?
Okay. The only thriller I have read is Colleen Hoover's
Verity. Maybe not.
So that's legit, because I'm the type of person where like if I'm gonna read, I want to be like happy about it, you know, like I want like a happy ending, and usually most fantasies do, and they always have like a romance subplot typically. So I want like a happy ending where it wraps up nicely. I don't want to read about someone's murder.
Okay, so I thought of this before. This is kind of unfair because I wrote the question, so I had more time to think. But I think this will be your answer too once I say it because you've read it too.
Okay.
If we're gonna go, well, I'll say mystery first, and then I'll give a thriller rec. But if we're gonna go mystery, the Brothers Hawthorne.
Yes. Okay.
That would be, is that what it's called? The
Inheritance Games.
The Inheritance Games. So the Hawthorne brothers, the Brothers Hawthorne is the book that's coming out. That's why I said that wrong.
Which I'm so ecstatic about.
Yes. So this is like the best way everyone describes it is like if you loved the movie Knives Out or Clue, it's basically that in book format. And it's a 3-part series, and they're coming out with the 4th book. She's coming out with it, I think, this fall.
Yeah, I want to say October, but I'm not sure.
That sounds right. It's like some September, October date. But basically, this is by, what's the author name? The Inheritance Games by, what's her name?
That's a great question.
Let me look it up. The Inheritance Games. And Goodreads is like the worst search engine ever because you have to type things
It
perfectly.
really is. Me and Jen were just talking about that yesterday, and we're like, what is with Goodreads? You
I
can't like
know.
find specifically what you're looking for.
It's so dumb. Okay, it's Jennifer Lynn Barnes. So essentially, it's about this grandpa who has this like really cool castle of a mansion of a home that has all these trap doors and secret passageways. And he has four
And
grandsons.
he's a billionaire, by the way,
Billionaire. Yes.
obviously.
He has four grandsons, and essentially he wants to give away his fortune, but he gives it away to this random girl that's like a 16-year-old teenager that has nothing to do with the family. And he has two daughters and a son that don't inherit it, or they're getting like chunks of it, like small pieces. And he's giving all of this to this girl named Avery.
He has two daughters and a son, and the son died like years prior. So the two daughters are assuming that the inheritance is going to be passed down to them. And then he has four grandsons.
Yes.
So those are the Hawthorne brothers. And instead all of it goes to this random girl in this random state. Because they're in Texas, and I think she was like in New Jersey or something.
Yeah.
So she's like, what on earth? This is insane. And it like, that one is just fascinating too, because there's so many, it's so strategic. It's like Taylor Swift and her life that she built. It like the billionaire grandfather is like Taylor Swift.
It's true. He has like all these secret clues and they go throughout the full 3 books. Like there's letters, and there's like trap doors, and there's secret passageways. It's so fun. And I feel like it'd be a really fun series to read on the beach, because it's like low stakes. Like, it's not like scary, like someone's going to pop out at you. And I feel like it's very fast paced. So it's going to keep your attention while you're like, but you can like pop in John Mayer in your AirPods and read it. It's not that deep. Like
it's not scary.
Yeah, no, not scary. So it's more like cozy mystery than it is anything, but it still feels like something you could read in the summer. Sometimes cozy mystery like Legends and Lattes would be hard for me to not read by a fire. Like that's something like I feel like needs to be like cold. I read that in January, and it was, you guys already know, I talked about my ogre romance.
So weird.
It was so good.
But I literally can't combat it, because I'm over here talking about vampires and like Hunger Games.
I mean, honestly, and like I like reading romance. I go through like really big swings. Like sometimes all I feel like reading is romance. The next day, all I feel like reading is like a thriller. And then I get in fantasy kicks. I'm such a mood reader that I feel like I can't read 2 genres in a row. Like I bounce back and forth. But right now I've been in a pretty big romance kick, but right now I'm really feeling fantasy, obviously, because the 2 books I said I wanted to read are. Okay. So my best thriller recommendation, which this book is kind of like, it's kind of, well, I'll give you 2. This one, I feel like you either love it or you hate it, because it has such a different plot. Like when you get to the twist, you're going to be like, Kate, WTF. But it's The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager, which I'm a Riley Sager apologist. Like everything I've read from him, I love. He comes out with a book every year on my birthday. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
But long story short, it's about this girl. Essentially that she just goes through a bad breakup, and she goes to this lake house, and she is an unreliable narrator because she drinks. And so you see her, and she has like possibly like mental things going on. And she's sitting on her dock, and she can see across the lake at this house with open windows, and she watches the couple, and there's nefarious things happening there.
Oh, so, I remember you telling me about that one.
Yes, I think it's such a good one. And since it's like on a lake, it happens in summertime, it feels very like summery. And then one of the best books I've ever read by a pool, where like it was as if nothing existed around me, was The Wife Stalker by Liv Constantine. I talk about it all the time. But it is short, it's quick. And I actually just bought it, and I want to reread it because I had read it on my Kindle. And I need to like see if I like it as much as I did the first time. But I just remember when the twist came, it is the craziest twist besides Verity that I've ever read.
Verity was wild.
Like it was Verity status where I was like, I was like, I cannot believe this. Like my mind was freaking blown. Like it was insane. Okay. Last question. What is something on your TBR that you were literally dying to read?
Okay, I was just thinking about this because you had mentioned ACOTAR earlier. I have been like dying to read Crescent City
Oh, yes.
because I loved the first three books of ACOTAR. Finally got through them, read through Throne of Glass series. I think I still have like actually two books left of that. Because by the fifth book, she changes points of view to like this other character, and I just couldn't get into it just yet. And I took a pause, but I have been thinking about Crescent City for so long that I'm like, oh, I want to know. I want to read. But I have been like filling my time with like these like 5-star books that I've been reading. Like Jen's book is for sure 5 stars for me. And then The Serpent and the Wings of Night was 5 stars for me, that I'm afraid to read something that is not as good.
So Crescent City is called Urban Fantasy. It's by Sarah J. Maas or Mass, however you pronounce her last name. And urban fantasy happens in present day.
Mm-hmm.
So it like happens in like a city like Chicago, which is
Yeah.
kind of cool. So it's
Which
very different than her other books.
And that's kind of like Divergent. It's kind of like present, well, not present day, but it's like post-apocalyptic present day, you know?
Right. Yeah. And I think that hers is supposed to be like a more realistic world in which we live in now, but there's ties from Crescent City, supposedly from Throne of Glass. But
Oh,
I don't know that to be sure. Or maybe it's ACOTAR. I can't remember. But there's something about the fact that you don't want to read Crescent City until you've read the other two series because they have possibly connections, but I don't quote me on that. But the third one of that one is coming out, I think, in the spring.
nice.
Next.
Okay, here's my thing with Sarah J. Maas is she never finished ACOTAR.
Well, that's still coming, I think, isn't it? Like she's still
No, like she's made statements about like not really wanting to finish it. And I'm like, you still have to talk about Elaine. Elaine and Lucian. Like, excuse me, there are 3 sisters. You have only talked about 2 of them.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what my answer is going to be. I think I have 2. Okay. Well, Fourth Wing would be my answer because I feel like I have this problem when I'm going to pick up a new book that there's so many I want to read that I have like crippling anxiety about which one I should read next.
You have like a full library of options in your own house.
So I made myself a May TBR and I literally read like nothing on it. Like I read like 2 books from it and then I just kept picking up other things that like, it's like I'll watch a TikTok and then I'll be like, oh, I have that book. And the person's like talking about it so like emphatically that I'm like, I must bump that to the top. Like I must go read that next. So I have a hard time. I'm either like all in reading and then take 5 days off. You know what I mean? Too. Like there's just when my life is really stressful or I'm traveling, I have a harder time reading because I'm the type of person that I have to be like really invested in all the way, like paying attention. So
yeah, for sure.
That. And then one that's really intrigued me is I've talked about it a decent amount, but in our Patreon, Samantha is actually a librarian. And what was it last time? It was 2 book club meetings ago where I had everyone say like, what's one book you could recommend to the group? And she recommended this book called Vivid. That's about colors and different people having like powers and like that they can only see like in yellow and red in their world and like blue. It was so cool. And the cover is so pretty. It looks like this.
I actually was looking that up today in on my Kindle and was trying to see if it was on Kindle Unlimited. I didn't think it would be because I know it's more of like an indie publishing house, but
yeah, I think that she said that it's by Enclave is the publisher. I think Enclave Escape. And I think they're technically like an independent Christian.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So they I don't think they do like spice or like any like language or anything in their books.
Which I would appreciate because there's sometimes I like going in blind to a lot of things because I don't want to have a I don't want to have an opinion about it before I go into it or know too much about it.
Yeah.
And sometimes that does not work out in my favor. I have to like DNF stuff and I'm like, oh gosh.
Right.
My vibe.
I actually listened to a podcast. There's this girl who has a YouTube channel that also has a book podcast, and she interviews authors. And she interviewed Kristen Modulin, who, oh my gosh, and I'll end with this. Sorry, this is not a super long story, but I'd read a couple of her thrillers that are they're like usually under 280 pages. So you could read them easily in one sitting, especially if you're a fast reader, or you could listen to them on audio. And she is on Kindle Unlimited, so you can read all of her books on Kindle, but she writes a book a month. She comes out with a new one 12 months a year.
How? Are they like thin?
So yeah, they're always between like 260 and 280 pages.
Still, that's a lot. And then how? Oh my gosh.
And she said she sits down. So she's mapped out she maps out her full year, and she has an editor and another, what do they call it? Not a proofreader, but whatever that name is called. And they know that certain times of that she writes it takes her like 5,000 words a day, and she writes for 11 days, and then they edit for a week and a half, and then they're able to move it into publishing, and she's self-published. But she was saying she has currently 37 books. And then she was saying which ones are her favorite. I read The Arrangement, which I heard about on YouTube, and it's a 3-part series that blew up because people found that specific book. And that's kind of like what propelled her career. Mm-hmm. And it is wild. Like if you want a fast thriller for the beach, this is another one where it's like, it's unhinged, not quite Lucinda Berry unhinged. That's the most unhinged thriller author I've ever read. But it's still unhinged. And she said that it blew up so much that she ended up getting like pushes to write like into a series, because it was never meant to have like a sequel, and it ended up being a trilogy. Okay. So I'm listening to the audiobook of one of the ones she said is really good. So I'll report back. But I have like 30 minutes left. I had to stop it because we are filming this podcast. But the one I'm listening to is called, hang on, I have to pull up my audio. The Husband's Liar? No, The Liar's Wife.
The Husband's Liar.
That was close.
The Husband's Liar. Like, what a weird title.
It's so funny. And then, but yeah, she gave recommendations of all the books that she said, like, you should read if you enjoy her books, and like which ones are the most twisty. And I will say, if you need to get out of a reading slump, I feel like she's the type of author that would pull you right out, because you wouldn't be able to stop reading it. Like it would just go really, really quickly. Mm-hmm. Anyways, hopefully this helps stack your TBR. We've been podcasting for a full hour.
Probably. Yeah.
It was a little longer than that, but hopefully that you guys enjoyed this. We'll do more book chats with just Kait and Whit, since we like to exclude Tara from these chats. I'm just kidding. She actually is swamped in shipping samples from Oak Collective. So if you have ordered some sweatshirts or t-shirts from our Facebook group, you're going to get a shipping notification while we are having book chats. So thank you guys so much for listening. And we hope that you got some recommendations or enjoyed these chats and giggles, and we will see you in the next episode. We love you. Bye.